having realized the importance of public opinion and having obtained independence, the United States of America became the new nation. And that new nation was called the New World. The New World. And actually, it was a world in itself. It was a world in the sense that it educates or educated or still educating the people everywhere in terms of the new government, in terms of the separation of power, in terms of the importance of public opinion, the issue that we are continuing with mass communication in order to clarify the intricacies of public opinion in a democracy. The United States of America had a new system of government based on the separation of power, which was different from the British government that was occupying the United States, in which was there was a diffusion of power. The parliamentary system in England was replaced by a separation of power system in the United States of America. And the separation, so America is based on separation of powers between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary branch. Separation means that each branch of government is independent of the other branches, with something called judicial review, which meant that the Supreme Court of the judiciary in America and the Sulta al-Qada'iyya reviews the actions and the acts of the other two branches. That's why America is educating the public as far as the separation of power is concerned. That separation of power dates back to Montesquieu, for example. Montesquieu used to say in French, il faut que le pouvoir arrête le pouvoir. يعني السلطة تحد السلطة. الليجيسلاتشر تحد الاكزيكتيف، والاكزيكتيف يحد القضائي، والقضاء يحد both of them. That's why it's called separation of powers. They are not totally separated. They all work for the advancement of the American interest. However, they have limits to, which is different from the British system, in which the Parliament in England was responsible for everything, to the extent that it was said that the British Parliament can do anything except for changing a man to a woman and a woman to a man, changing the sex of the human being. Nowadays, with the advancement of technology and the medicine, I am sure that the Parliament can do anything in the United Kingdom. But in the United States of America, politics took a different turn. Their system was built on the separation of power. It was also based on fragmentation of power. Fragmentation meant that between the federal government and the state governments and the local governments, power is diffused between all these. That's why fragmented between all of these. Each and every branch exercises powers that it is entitled to according to the Constitution and according to the bylaws of the laws and the bylaws of the United States. So separation of power, fragmentation of power. Also in America you have something else called delegation of power. Because America is a democracy, you have delegation. Power could be delegated from the person in whose power is invested to someone else who can exercise that power on behalf of the one who delegates his power. So the delegation of power permeates the entire American system. And finally, you have diffusion of power as a consequence of all separation, diffusion, and the delegation. You have diffusion of power all over society. That's why the American system is unique, and it educates the people, and it educates every government in the world. If you ask the British people Is your democracy perfect? They would say yes, but we still envy, يعني نحسد. We envy the Americans for such and such and such and such. So their democracy could be perfect. They are the oldest democracy after the Greeks. It is a British democracy. However, they still look for American democracy with total respect. That's why when we rely on the teaching the American system, we are teaching a model that we can learn from, that we come closer to it, not necessarily to be a replica to it, or to repeat it, or to copy-paste that system. Systems don't work that way, but at least it stands as a unique model for the separation of power, delegation of power, fragmentation of power, and the diffusion of power. The American system was based on the Constitution. And the American Constitution is simple. It has changed, it has been amended 30 times in the history of the United States. And there is one amendment called the ERA, Equal Rights Amendment, which gives equal rights to women and to men. Men and women should have equal rights. That amendment has not yet passed by the United States people because the public in the United States, and here is the importance of public opinion, the public refuses to pass this kind of amendment because they don't agree to it. But the Constitution in America is very important. One thing which adds secrecy and the sacred nature to the Constitution in America. The American Constitution is supreme, is above everything else in the American society. And what makes, or what made that Constitution that powerful and that important in America is the judiciary, the legal system in America. It is not important to write in the Constitution that you or that individuals should enjoy such and such rights. You need a judiciary to protect those rights. Without having judges, courts to uphold and to protect such rights, those rights are useless, are not very important. For example, if you look at the guarantees and the rights and the privileges written into the Jordanian kingdom, in the Jordanian constitution, you will find them similar to those written in the British Constitution, even though the British Constitution is not written, but even they are similar to the practices of the British. They are almost the same, kingdom and the kingdom. But in Jordan, the king rules, governs, and owns. In Britain, the king or the queen does some less authority than the Jordanian Pope. The rights of the individual mentioned in the Jordanian constitution are abundant, are many, are important. However, they are not as protected as the rights of the British people, even though those rights of the British people are not all written into parts of the Constitution. And when we say that Britain does not have a written constitution, this does not mean that Britain has no constitution at all. Britain has constitution in terms of acts of the parliament, in terms of judgments or sentences passed by the courts, and in terms of all the documents such as the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, etc., etc. So you have many documentation. When we say they don't have a written constitution, they don't have one document that to be said, this is a constitution for Britain. Like, or this is a constitution for Egypt, or this is the constitution of France, or this is the constitution of the United States. In Britain, the constitution is dispersed among many documents and among many declarations. But they have constitution and constitutional customs, and they are a very powerful nation. In America, on drafting the constitution, when they wanted to draft the constitution for the new nation after independence, They did that in secrecy, away from reporters, away from public opinion, away from the scrutiny of the people. Scrutiny, yani watching over, the people were not informed. And you can look at the constitution in Egypt. We have two constitutions recently. One immediately after the revolution, and then we have the constitution that we are living with right now. The first constitution of the 100 committee, everything was discussed in the committees was declared to the public. But the second constitution was kept secret until it was revealed to the public to talk about and to argue about, to debate about later on. But in America, they taught the world how you can write a constitution, how you can draft a constitution away from the public, and you can do this away from reporters, away from the press, away from the scrutiny of the people, away from interference. Because if the committee argue about religion and politics, for example, and this finds its way to the public, then the public is involved. They influence the committee. That's why the committee does in secrecy. It is exactly like the jury in the Court of Justice in America. The jury, when they debate a case, is the defendant guilty or not guilty, the accused, is he guilty or not guilty, they go in seclusion. They are secluded from the public, from newspapers, from their families, from everybody else, and they concentrate only on the case they are studying in order to come up with a sentence or with finding. How the judge would ask them, how did you find the accused? They say guilty or not guilty. But in order to reach that judgment, in order to reach that verdict, they are secluded from the public. So the Americans taught us and are teaching the world through drafting their own constitution and through the jury deliberations about any case before the courts in the United States, where secrecy of deliberation is away from the scrutiny of the public. No reporters, no press, no spectators, no interference with the work of the committee. So they drafted the Constitution. After they drafted the Constitution for the United States, they came to have it ratified by the Congress. And in order to have it ratified, the ratification process is public and cannot be done in secret. Therefore, you don't have debate when drafting the Constitution, but debate flared up, debate ignited, debate was strong later on in the process of ratification. The debate flared up and a heated discussion divided public opinion. And when you have discussion about any issue, and you have people divided about it, some agree, some disagree, some strongly agree, some strongly disagree, some are indifferent, some are uninformed, some are neutral, then you have public opinion at hand. You don't have public opinion if you have a unanimous decision, whether with or against. But when you have public opinion according to heresy, for example, when you do have division of opinion, when people are divided, then you have public opinion. So people became divided about the American Constitution. And once they are divided, once you have public opinion. Here again, issues create opinion. The issues debated in the Constitution created opinion about how to proceed with American politics. The debate led to the creation of the political parties in the United States. That debate divided the people. So you have the Republicans and you have the Democrats, you have other people, or you have the Federalists and you have the Anti-Federalists. This kind of division did not show up without the involvement of the press, And the press carried information. The Federalist stands for 1, 2, 3, 4. The Anti-Federalist stands for 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have division of public opinion. You have creation of political parties. So political debate created political parties. Political issues create opinion about them. So you have to remember, it is the issue that creates opinion. As the press carried the views of the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, people were informed through the press and the debate about the rights of the individuals in the United States. When the press talked to the people about the right of the individuals, this led to the Bill of Rights. What is the Bill of Rights in America? The Bill of Rights is some sober articles in the Constitution which could not be amended. And they are listed as articles from 1 to 10 in the American Constitution. These articles or those articles cannot be abridged, cannot be abrogated, cannot be annullated, cannot be cancelled, cannot be amended, cannot be changed. They are sacred and the important or the most important rights of the individual in the American Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. For example, they are protected by the American Constitution in terms of speech, opinion, religion, opinion, press, opinion, assembling and deputation in the government. So the individual in America has 4 basic rights, 4 basic political rights. The right to express your opinion. This cannot be abridged according to the American Constitution. Congress shall make no laws abridging the freedom of speech or that of the press. You have the right to talk. You have the right to express your opinion. Nobody can take that right from you. And this has been mentioned in the American Constitution. But this also is mentioned in many other constitutions. But it is not as protected as in the American case. Because in America you have judges, you have jealous courts. The court is jealous for freedom. The court is the protector of freedom. Without the courts, without the legal system in America, all these freedoms could have meant nothing. Nothing at all. There are nations in which all guarantees are mentioned in constitutions. However, they are not being safeguarded, they are not protected, they are not observed, they are trodden upon, they are humiliated, they are being violated by the governments everywhere in the world. But in America, those rights are really protected. You have the right to speak up. You have the rights of the press. You have the right of religion, to adhere to any religion you like. Freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of speech and of the press. Number 2, freedom of religion. And the Congress here again says, the Constitution says, Congress shall make no laws. لن يصنع الكونغرس قانونا regarding freedom of religion. فيما يخص ممارسة العقيدة. فيما يخص العقيدة. Freedom of religion, حرية العقيدة. Or the practice thereof, أو ممارسة العقيدة. So every American human being, every American individual has the right to adopt a religion or to relinquish a religion, to accept a religion or not to accept it, to espouse a religion or not to espouse a religion, to adhere to a religion or not to adhere to a religion. That's why in America, for example, we see people who are atheists. They declare themselves as atheists. There are people who are agnostic. They declare it without shame, without fear, without retribution. Nobody can punish them, nobody can castigate them, nobody can sanction them, nobody can attack them because they are as such. Everybody has a constitutional right to adopt a religion or not to adopt a religion, to espouse a religion or not to espouse a religion, to adhere to religion or not to adhere to religion, to accept or to reject a religion. That's why Congress cannot even interfere in that area or in that domain in order to regulate freedom of religion. That's why freedom of religion is off congressional interference. Nobody in Congress can interfere with the freedom of religion. And we have many examples in America. For example, there was a lady called Madeleine O'Hare. Madeleine O'Hare. She is an atheist. هي ملحدة يعني. She is an atheist. She doesn't subscribe to any religion. And she came up on television once, holding $1 in her hand, and in the back of the dollar it is written, "In God we trust." In God we trust. Actually, it was "In gold we trust," but it has been transformed over the years, and now as it stands, it says, "In God we trust." The lady said, "Who is God? Who issues the currency?" They said, "The Congress issues the Congress. The Congress issues the currency. This money is issued by the Congress of the United States." Then it said, "Then how come the Congress is part of the state? How come they talk about religion?" You see, just to give you an example, that atheists can come up and object to even a word as simple as "In God we trust" written into the dollar of the United States. It is on the dollar side, on the $1. It is written on the back of it, "In God we trust." And the Madeleine O'Hare wanted to have it removed because the money is issued by the state and not by religious institutions. Also, another issue that clarifies the freedom of religion in America, the case known as Brown versus the Board of Education. Brown was a child, and Brown went to school, and at school there's a mess of biology or biological class, يعني في حصة الأحياء, in the biological class, they taught him the theory of the origins of species advanced by Darwin. And in that theory, it was mentioned that all human beings originate from the monkeys. And the girl went to home, the boy went to home, and he said to his mother, "Is my father a monkey? Are our ancestors monkeys?" She said, "Who told you that?" The boy said, "In school they taught us, the miss in the class of biology, they taught us that we all originate in a monkey." So the lady went to the Board of Education and asked them, "How could you teach my boys, our children, that we all originate from a monkey? We originate from God, as is mentioned in the Bible." They said, "It is a theory and you cannot." She took them to the court. The court said, when the case was seen by the court said that we are not in the Middle Ages, therefore we cannot prevent any theory from being taught. But you have the right, and your children have the right, to be taught as far as religion is concerned, as far as the creation of human beings is concerned. You have the right as a Christian that your theory of Christianity about the creation of man to be taught in a school side by side next to the origin of species advanced by Charles Darwin. Therefore, this was an indication that in America you can argue for and you can argue against religion. A third case that clearly illuminates freedom of religion in America, that a Jewish guy wanted to join a school, fundamentalist school, which is purely Christian in the south of the United States. He applied to the school, so his application was turned down. And when he asked why, they told him, "You are Jewish, and we are teaching Christianity, and you cannot study our religion. You are not going to be baptized. You are not going to be a pastor or a priest. You are Jewish, so you have to study somewhere else." The boy said, "No, I wanted to study Christianity. and I want to study Christianity at this fundamentalist school. And this fundamentalist school was run by the moral majority led by Jerry Falwell, for example, which is a famous politician in America. The boy said, I insisted to join this school. The school said no, they turned him down. He went to the court, and the court then to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, the boy is Jewish, but he is interested in studying Christianity. He can join, he must join, you must accept him. Otherwise, if you don't want to accept him, you are going to be deprived of your tax exemptions. And the school said yes. The school settled with, okay, we don't want the tax exemptions and we don't want this Jewish boy to join in. So if you are regulated by the government or receiving governmental funds or receiving exemptions from the government, you should not discriminate. But if you are private business saying we are Christians, we are Muslims, we are Jewish, we are whatever, then you can have the right. So they gave up more than $35 million every year in terms of tax exemptions, and they had stood their ground without accepting the war. Of course, in America you have the right to assemble and petition the government. In a democracy you have the right for people, they have the right to make a congregation. They have the right to assemble, to get together, and even to influence the government. That's why it is not surprising in America that you have lobbies. American lobby, Jewish lobby, Irish lobby, Italian lobby, Mexican lobby, Arab lobby. You have many lobbies whose job and whose intention is to influence the government. So they convene, they congregate, they assemble in order to petition the government, do this and don't do this, whether in terms of internal politics or outside politics. This is how the American system works. It is based on the Bill of Rights. It is based on the basic freedoms of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble and petition the government. In other countries, however, if people assemble without the knowledge, pre-knowledge of the government, they could be arrested. They could be even accused of conspiracy against the government. In America, they assemble in order to influence the government, to have a piece of legislation cancelled, or to introduce a piece of legislation to the Congress, or to influence a governmental official. They assemble with that intention, and they are legal. And that's why the American system is educating everybody. But in other countries, if you assemble without knowledge or pre-knowledge of the existing government, you could be arrested and you could be thrown into jail as violating existing laws, or even disturbing the peace, or even conspiring against the government. Even though in America they conspire in order to influence the government, to change a piece of legislation, to affect the governmental official, but it is legal. In other countries it is illegal. Moreover, the press became partisan. They took sides. The press did not only carry information, so people were with the Democratic or with the Republican Party, with the Federalist or with the non-Federalist, anti-Federalist. No, the press itself took sides. And nowadays, if you see, the press really takes sides everywhere. And in terms of national security, for example, the press says, we uphold governmental policies because we are doing this out of defense of national security. However, national security is being invoked reasonably, is being invoked without justification. Everybody can say, I am supporting my own government because of I am defending national security. In America, you cannot raise this kind of defense. You can take sides and you stand your ground and you defend your position. Nobody can attack you. Nobody can, if you do something wrong, you can be taken to court. Other than that, you have the right to side with whomever you wanted to side. Parties began to recruit people and renters to join in. Partisan or parties, political parties, began to recruit people. How do they recruit people? They use the press. They recruit printers. They recruit the press in order to join in, and fierce political battles ensued. Fierce political debates ensued in the United States of America. So you have debates flared up as the Constitution was debated, as the Constitution was being ratified, and that ratification process created many issues, political, social, economic, whatever. They turn into politics, and the press itself took sides, and that's how the society was divided. And that division of society was important because it educated the public. In society, in American society, the press educates the people. The press illuminates the people. The press entertains the people. The press watches over the government to correct any wrongdoing. That's why we move to that later on in order to see how the press deals with the government or how the media deals with the government. So to conclude, the importance or the impact of the press. Governors fail because of radio shows. Many governors in America, sometimes they fall because of a radio show. Someone comes, talks on the radio, then the public get disenchanted with his ideas, the public removes him from office. In America, you have more than 600 radio shows that exist in the United States. People in America and elsewhere as well are being bombarded with more information than ever before. Now, information in America is really being disseminated on a large scale business. That dissemination of information makes it very important. You are being bombarded. It has been estimated, for example, that an average American is bombarded by 50,000 ads in the year. 50,000 ads. You have ads all over the place. If you walk in the street, you read ads. In the metro stations, you read ads. Inside the metro cars, you read ads. In television, you hear ads. In newspapers, you read ads. Wherever you go, you are being bombarded by ads. Whether you pay attention to them or not of course all of these 50,000 ads are really influencing the individual, but the individual at least concentrates on something that he hears over dinner when he's eating indoors, when he's eating with his family, or sitting with his family, or reading it in a newspaper, or in the metro station, at the metro station, or within the metro cars. Sometimes you are locked in the metro car for at least 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or sometimes half an hour. Or in a train, you stay in a train. You are riding a train and the ad is in front of you. So you close your eyes and you open your eyes, you read the ad, you read the ad, you read the ad. What is the problem? The ad is being rubbed in, and the ad is finding its way to your heart and mind. Information has an impact on society. Information has an impact on culture. Information has an impact on politics. Information is having an impact on our eating and drinking habits, sleeping habits, whatever. Information is important. If you characterize the age you are living in, it is the age of information. Not the age of transportation, the age of information. What is globalization? Globalization gives you a quick glimpse at what happens in the farthest corner of the world. What happens in China, you see it right away. What happens in America, you see it right away. What happens in South Africa, you see it right away. What does this mean? This means the world has been globalized, has been contracted into a small village. And the reigning principle is the principle of information. The reigning preponderance is the preponderance of information. It is information that is really in abundance everywhere. Without information, our society becomes different, our culture becomes different. How do you know what culture? What is culture? Culture is everything that a society does. Sleeping habits, wedding habits, funeral habits, educational habits, respect for elders, whatever. Upbringing, our educational system, our political system, our social system, whatever we do is part of our culture. And without information, you know nothing about it. With that information, you know about the cultures of other people. So you can copy whatever you like, and you can dismiss whatever you don't like. So culture itself is being affected by the information, by the press, by the tools of communication, by mass communication. So to recap means recapitulation. To sum up this, mass communication is important. Mass communication, you have to rely on the historical development. You can take an example from the United States of America, because the United States of America stands out as an example that educates the people. I am not biased for the American system or for American society, but it is the history itself that tells me that the Americans advanced more than anybody else in terms of mass communication. And in the next courses, in the next classes, we will know more about mass communication in the American society. For example, today we continue with the media and the government in America. The media and the government, mass communication and the government. To begin with, the American media is a word for all types of media: radio, television, conferences, symposia, books, newspapers, magazines, articles, speeches, addresses, whatever you are talking to large audience. This is called the media, mass communication media or mass media. That media is having a relationship with government in a democratic society. And of course, the media have a relationship with non-democratic societies as well, with non-democratic governments. But that relationship could be characterized to begin with as an easy relationship, and uneasy. Uneasy means a difficult relationship with the media. Because the media does a certain function, and the government does certain function, or certain functions. And these functions are not really in harmony with one another. Because the media would like to disclose government or governmental officials, to watch over them, and the government does not want the media to brood in or to meddle in their work. However, that relationship has been fostered, has been cooked all over history, and then you have a clear-cut relationship between the media and the government. For example, if there is a fire somewhere else in any street, on any street, then you will have the police, then the fire department, then the media people. The police and the fire department would like to kick everybody away for their safety, but they cannot dismiss the media people. The media people have the right to be present exactly as the fire people have the right to be present. They have the right to be present exactly as the police people have to be present. And at police stations, you have people of the media represented within the police station to watch over. What does the police do? The police do what? The police is a plural word. So you cannot say the police does, the police do. The police do, the police catch, the police play. You don't say the police plays, the police catches, the police does. The police do, because the police is a plural word. The police do their work under the scrutiny of the media. That's why you can imagine a police officer is doing a certain investigation or certain interrogation or certain work, and the media man is watching over his head to see what does he do. Is he going to exceed the limit? Is he going to beat up the accused or the one who he is negotiating with or investigating or deliberating with? Then the media people are really important because they exercise influence over police work in the American society. So the American media does entertainment, does education, does provide information, and watch over the government. Information, they would like to control information. And the first and the most important aspect of information is the news information. You give the news to the public. Who gives the news to the public? It is the media. When you read the New York Times, for example, you find in the farthest corner on the right, all news that are fit to print. Of course, you may ask from whose perspective, but all news that are fit to print. All news that are fit to print. So all news must be reported to the public unrestricted. All news must be unrestrictedly relayed to the public. But is that true? Is that so? We will see. So, information and the news are disseminated to the public through the media people. They also entertain people. You do certain entertainment. The media do entertainment. The media provide entertainment. Many soap operas, many acts, many plays, many sitcoms, etc., are provided by the media. So the media entertain us. Also the media educate us. There are programs which are specialized programs. They talk to you about the desert, about nuclear weapons, about about the ozone issue, the ozone problem, or about certain crises. They can educate us on a certain specific issue. But the most important, which relates to our political science courses here at this faculty, is the role of the media, or the function of the media as watchdog over the actors of the government. What is the watchdog? Watchdog means the media sets in motion the process for change. The media, by involving itself in what governmental officials do, the media really play a role in setting the motion, or setting in motion the process for change. Who leads the change in America? You will find that it's the media by excellence. Who removed Nixon from office? It is the media. Who reported about the Vietnam War? It was the media. Who reported about the killing in Iraq? It is the media. It is the media that tells the people many things and watches over the government. That's why the first thing they do, they set in motion. They begin the process of change in all society. How? They expose what you're doing and they mobilize public opinion. They expose wrongdoing, they watch, so they expose wrongdoing. If a governmental official takes bribery, for example, or exceeds his limits of authority, or uses excess force in order to do certain governmental activity. If he does, then the media is really on his back. The media is on his shoulders. The media's heat is felt on his head and is felt on his shoulders. The media mobilize public opinion against that official, against that branch of government. They say, for example, nowadays, that the American president, who is saying this nowadays, with the reference to the virus. They say the American is misleading the public. American president is misleading the public, is misinforming the public. The American president doesn't know anything about the coronavirus, or he's playing down the effects or the bad effects of the coronavirus. So the media is telling the people that the real president is not doing his job as he should. The public gets information from the media, tries to pressure the government to take corrective action. Well, if we are told that the government or certain governmental official is not doing his job well, then we can pressure our deputies, our representatives, we can pressure the government officials to do some corrective actions. Some remedial work is needed. You have to interfere. What did you do with this? What did you do with that? You must do something in order to correct that mistake committed by the governmental official. So the public pressures the government to take corrective action. Number 3, government investigates. The government investigates, often with the help of the journalists. If a journalist brings up an issue to the attention of the government begins to investigate. If the pressure mounts on the government, usually the government dismisses that. But when pressure mounts, when pressure increases on the government, so the government tries to investigate. In order to investigate, they do this with the help of the journalists, or with the journalists, or with any other journalists, but they have their means, their ways, their tools in order to investigate. Then the wrongdoers are punished, the wrongdoing is corrected, and the system is thereby reformed. That's why they say the best democracy, the worst democracy can always be corrected. The worst democracy can always be corrected. Because in a democracy, if anything does anything wrong, if anyone does anything wrong, then the media is all over the place. The media pressures the governmental official, and the public are educated. So the public pressure the governmental official, the government corrects itself, either by removing the official or by punishing the official, and then the situation is being reformed. That's why they say the worst democracy can always be corrected, as long as you have free press and free public opinion. When you have opinion about something, when the public is alerted, when the public is informed, when the public gets wind of any wrongdoing, the public pressures the government or governmental official, then the government does its work to correct or to remedy the situation, and the situation is reformed. That's why they say the worst democracy can always be corrected through this. While the best dictatorship will always be a president. You know why? The best dictatorship, the most philanthropic dictator. Philanthropic يعني الدكتاتور الخير. The best dictator will always have the people in prison. Why? Because he does not allow a second opinion. He does not allow people to disagree with him. That's why when you have a relationship between the media and the government, that relationship is characterized as an easy relationship. It is not a very comfortable relationship. The government would like to do its work away from the media, and the media would like to meddle in to see what the government is doing step by step in order to tell the people. And if the media is not satisfied, the media go to the public. And the public sometimes responds in a very erratic way. They can even come out to say, down with Fulan, or down with the leader, down with the president, down with who, with whatever. down with such a program, or we are not moving until this program is corrected, or this wrongdoing is reformed, etc., etc. So the media instigates the public. So the media manipulates public opinion. The media takes sides. And if the media is siding with the Democratic Party, for example, in America, and the president is a Republican, so all Democratic media are accusing the president who is a Republican. And if the president is Democratic, all the Republican media would be accusing or attacking the Democratic president, and vice versa. So the media does help democracy to correct itself by divulging the secrets of the government. And the government would like to keep everything in hush-hush. The government would like to keep everything secret. The government would like to work in secrecy. But democracy does not go along with this. They say those who go secretly go evilly. And foul birds love to fly at night. If you go secretly, this means that you are concocting something. You are conniving to do something. You are trying to deceive. You are trying to betray. You are trying to do something wrong. Why do you do this in secrecy? And that's why we tell our public, never ever accept anyone who invites you to join any secret movement or any secret clandestine group. يعني لما يجي واحد يقول لك انضم للجماعة دي, if it is secret, no. Because in a democracy, everything should be on the surface. Nothing should be underground. Underground would be underground mob, would be underground crime, would be clandestine movements which are anti-legitimacy, anti-legality, anti-constitutionality, anti-government, anti the rights of the human being. And whenever you see a secret group, that's why in a democracy, you don't have secret groups. All groups are on the surface. All groups are competing. All groups are working. All groups are declaring their posts, declaring their opinions, attracting people to their sides. But in non-democratic countries, you will have certain secret groups, underground groups. They do evil away from the scrutiny of the government. And you don't have free media. If you have free media, then the media would shed light on such groups, then the groups are out and everything is okay. And you need to reform the laws. You need to uphold the Constitution. It is not enough to mention in the Constitution that individuals have such and such rights. Okay, all constitutions do this. All constitutions do this. They say the individual has the right to do such and such and such and such. But in practice, if you do this, you'll be punished in non-democratic countries. If you do it, you will even be rewarded in democratic countries. Sometimes you have to allow for more freedom to the public in order to have educated public opinion. Watchdogs, historically were respected in America. A watchdog, he is someone who betrays, someone who divulges, is someone who sheds lights on governmental issues. Watchdog. He is working on behalf of the people. In the Watergate, for example, in 1972, ended up with what? With the resignation of Richard Nixon. Nixon spied on the Democratic Party, and Nixon was removed from office because of that. There was an impeachment. That impeachment was about to be completed, so he resigned. Nixon resigned before the impeachment took place to the Senate. That's why in a democracy you can even remove a president. But in non-democratic countries, you cannot remove any small official from office because he is supported by his superior and his superior by his superiors until the top dog who is residing over the entire country. Watchdogs usually follow police officers, they follow governmental officials, they follow mayors, العمد. They follow school superintendents. They follow judges. They follow members of Congress. They follow all governmental officials, elected and appointed alike. Watchdogs are relentless in their follow-up of all governmental officials, of all those who assume public office. As long as you are assuming public office, you can imagine that the media are not going to leave you alone. The media are going to interfere in what you do. The media are going to follow up. The media are going to monitor what you do in order to make sure that you are doing this in conformity with the existing laws, that you are not benefiting or gaining personal benefit out of your official job, that you are not hurting other people out of competition or whatever, that you are really doing what the laws prescribes. Therefore, the watchdog function is important. Many have that watchdog function may have different names. It may be called different names, but it is exactly the same. The fourth branch of government sometimes. The media are called the fourth branch of government. You have the executive branch, you have the legislative branch, you have the judiciary branch, and then you have the media branch. It's called the الرابعة, the fourth branch of government. They are also called the adversary of government, أعداء الحكومة. You can imagine it is an easy relationship because of that. It is an adversary. If you are a minister, you would like to have a good relationship with the media. Other than that, so the media, for example, can spruce you. They can put your picture in the newspaper. They can talk about your programs. They can cover your activities. Especially that the media are private organizations, and the minimum governmental media exists in democratic countries. The media are all private business. So they follow you. In order for them to follow you, you must be upright, you must be doing your job well, and you must be working for the benefit of the public. They can follow you, they can spruce you, يعني يزينوا لك صورتك. They can talk to you, to the public about the achievements that you do. But if they are not satisfied with you, they can cover the achievements and they can talk about the bad things or the mistakes that you commit in order to divulge you, in order to disgrace you, in order to correct you or to remove you from office. The public needs information. The public needs information in order to make intelligent choices in a democracy. You need to choose between A and B as candidates. For example, A and B are two people who are candidates for your district, for the Congress, for example, and you would like to know to choose which, or to choose either of them. You would like to choose either of them. How would you get to know any of them? You don't know that in person, but you can read about him. You can see his program on the media. So the media does tell you, does provide you with the information with which you can make intelligent decisions and you can make intelligent choices in a democracy. They can distinguish between right and wrong if they have all the facts. If you have the facts, you can suppose the president or the minister or the prime minister or the government took a decision with regard to school organization, for example, to organize or regulate education. That decision will have supporters and will have people who attack it. The decision will have advocates and the decision will have adversaries. Therefore, where do you stand? With the advocates who know about the decision or with those who are against the decision? You need the media here to step in and to tell you all the facts. Without the facts, you cannot make up your mind. You cannot choose to go either way. You need more information. You need facts. Democracy will be threatened if the marketplace of ideas is closed to some information, and that marketplace of information should be open all the time. If it is closed before any piece of information or any flow of information, then democracy could be threatened. You will have democracy to the extent that you have free ideas competing with one another in society. If you don't have ideas competing with one another in society, you cannot claim that you have a democracy. Suppose, for example, you say, this group have no legitimacy, and this group does not have legitimacy, and this group is having legitimacy. If you do this, if you form clause, you prevent any group from self-fulfillment, you are not a democracy. And that's why one of our scholars, may Allah be pleased with him, Dr. Hamid Arabia, used to say that the only test for democracy is to assume newcomers, new groups without violence. If you revert to violence, to silence any group, you are not a democracy. But if you assume, if you involve, if you incorporate this group without violence, or you dismiss that group without violence, you are a democracy. So you are a democracy to the extent that you are not using violence in society. But if any group, suppose the group came to say, we are anti-constitution, teach them, talk to them, reason with them. But if you revert to violence, then you are not a democracy. You can take them to court, of course. You can punish them by law, but without violence. But if the government does use violence automatically against any group that it does not like, then that government is not a democracy. But if the government takes all democratic ways, all legal ways, all legal means to take these people off the street, it is okay. That's why when we see groups fighting with one another, you know that, look, in Rwanda, for example, 1 million people almost were killed in Rwanda and were thrown, their corpses were thrown into the Nile because of disagreements. And the government, the Hutu, the Zulu, whatever, the groups, the diversity should be appreciated. Diversity in a democracy should be appreciated. Democracy is strengthened by the diversity. But the dictators will tell you that diversity is threatening democracy. No. Diversity never threatens democracy. Diversity is a plus, is a blessing, not a curse to democracy. So democracy needs diversity. And I remember, I am reminded of the Quranic statement. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. Oh people, we have created you from one single male and one single female, and we made you tribes and people in order that you know one another, not to fight one another. That's why when you incorporate any group without violence, you are okay. Then your society is democratic. But when you revert to violence in order to silence any group, you are not a democratic society. Therefore, watchdog provides information. With that information, you can make intelligent guesses, intelligent chances, intelligent choices in order to be with that or with that in order to be in a democratic society. You can distinguish between right and wrong if you have all the facts. And all the facts can be delivered to you only either from heaven or from the media people. Democracy will be threatened if the marketplace of ideas is closed to some information, or if the watchdogs do not act as responsible. When the watchdog people, when the media people are silencing, you don't have a democracy. That's why in a democracy you cannot take a journalist to jail based on what he reports. He has the right to report. And we will come to see later in the course that the Supreme Court in the United States mentioned that if we are going to curtail the freedom of the press, we are going to kill democracy in our society. If the public does not pay attention to the media to the watchdog, dictators and authoritarian leaders cannot live long in the face of truly adversarial press. If we cannot control, if we cannot allow the media to function, dictators and authoritarian leaders will be spread out and they will be harmful to democracy. In order to have a healthy, sound, good, prospering, flourishing democracy, you need to have the watchdog people meddling with what governmental officials do, and if we do this, we will be moving towards a healthy political system. Democratic political systems rely on watchdogs to do their job, and the democratic political systems believe that the worst democracy can always be corrected through the work of watchdogs, and the dictatorships, authoritarian regimes do not like, they even hate, they sometimes send journalists to jail because they meddle with whatever they do and thereby threaten democracy everywhere in the world. Thank you very much. This is the second lecture and we will go to